Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the P1 podcast with Matt and Tommy, Brazilian Grand Prix edition. We didn't even get around to doing a qualifying roundup, which would have been a podcast in itself, a juicy, beefy one. And then, of course, we had Super Sunday. And my God, I mean, what have we just witnessed, Tom Bellingham?
I think we've just witnessed maybe the most things happening on a single Sunday of Grand Prix racing, because
the thingiest F1 Grand Prix ever.
The thingiest.
Before we dive into this podcast, we have a big announcement, and that is the P1 live show. We've announced it. The middle of December, we are going on tour in the UK for an end of season special. It's going to be so fun. We've got new segments. If you've come to a P1 live show before, it's going to feel so different. It's going to be exciting. We've got so much to cover. Lots of games. You can meet new F1 fans. You just have a great time. And what a way to end the year. Spend some money on some Christmas present that you will not regret. Okay, so get your tickets now. Link will be in the description, and we'll see you very soon.
There'll be debates whether it is, plenty of... Everyone's got a different opinion of what makes a great race, but I don't think you can deny that. I don't think there's been more kind of changes and moments and crashes and title changes and crazy things happening all in one day, because we had a banger of a qualifying and then a banger of a race, which was also an epic race as well that went on for absolutely ages. Oh my word, Interlagos never fails, does it?
It certainly does. And I think we just have to start with a question. N33_Emma. Best race of the season? This is a difficult one, right? Because most chaotic race of the season, yes, without a shadow of a doubt. I feel genuinely like I've aged 3 years watching that race. In a good way, but still, stress. I'm quite glad the last 20 laps was actually quite calm, so I could just sort of get back to normal for a little bit. But most chaotic race of the season, yes. Was it the best race of the season? It was the most unpredictable race, perhaps. I don't know about best. I know it depends how you rate best, because if chaos is what you love and Ocon leading, you might well choose Brazil. But we've been spoilt with such amazing races this year. I'm not sure I can crown this the best.
I think the fact that it's not a flat-out decision that that's the best race of the year just shows what an amazing season we've had. I think that, it all comes down to what you personally enjoy from a good race, because I think this season has delivered so much in terms of, this season has delivered drama, championship drama, kind of unexpectedness, if that's a word. Battles for the win going right to the end, which we've seen quite a few of actually this year. Different winners, crazy strategies. And this one, I think, was just your classic kind of chaos race. This was like your Germany 2019 race, where just carnage, so many incidents, so many people going off, kept you guessing all the time. And we get a lot of stick for our predictions sometimes, that little top 5 graphic that we post, where people go, what are you on? And imagine if one of us had put Verstappen and 2 Alpines as the top 3, people would have gone, what on earth are you talking about? So unpredictable, so good. Like, what an unbelievable race.
It really was. And look, I think personally for me, how I grade Grand Prix is more around, I enjoy battles for the lead, side-by-side action, that sort of chaos. Don't get me wrong. This was an incredible Grand Prix weekend. And I think over the course of the entire weekend, it's probably the most entertaining in a lot of ways. But yeah, it's right up there. It's just very hard to really give a standout winner across this season. Tommy, why don't you go into your most memorable moment, shall we? And I wonder what it might be.
Could it be Max Verstappen going from 17th to 1st and winning the race? Yes, it was.
Tell me, mate. It was your memorable moment.
Of course it was. Yeah, what an unbelievable drive from Verstappen. It's been a fair old while since he's won a race, and what a race for him to win. He's been on a bit of a win drought, it has to be said. 10 races is a long time for him, even before he'd been dominating in Formula One, who still was picking up the odd wins in the Mercedes era, of course, as well. And I think you saw with the celebrations just how much it meant to him. There's obviously huge championship implications as well as him just winning again, because just the drama of it almost, it's not the same as Brazil 2012 if people are been around enough to remember that one in terms of a championship battle between Alonso and Vettel, and it kept switching every single moment. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this race for me, that after qualifying, I was looking at lots of forecasts and things and saying that basically if they finish where they start, the gap would be down to 19 points. And I'm thinking that not only is it very much championship on, but I'd be very concerned that it's championship over for Max, because it was such a big pressure moment. So the fact that he came through from 17th to win and did it in such an incredible way as well, with some unbelievable driving. I know he's good in the wet, but even that, well, he's incredible. He's the best driver. He's the best driver in the wet, hands down. In my opinion, he's the best driver on the grid. But I know there's contentious, but I think that
obviously,
proved that.
Not discounting Charles Leclerc, I get that. Yeah, because you don't usually put him in.
But just what a drive! Like, what a drive! Sensational.
Yes. I thought that I was going to be particularly not smug, because it's not my driver taking on your driver for the World Championship, but I thought that perhaps we might see some Tom Bellingham misery on this podcast. But alas, we did not, because Max Verstappen. This is the thing, right? We're on the watch along. Matt P1 Tommy, if you don't follow us, I think maybe you're kind of a glass half empty kind of bloke. You're sort of doubting it, and I'm going, bro, you're about to whip out and a 99 rated trump card here of Max Verstappen in the wet. How can you not think that he is going to come through? And he did. The way that he negotiated that race was unbelievable from lap one. Really, he even was one of the drivers to note that the aborted start thing was wrong, and he was sat on the grid awaiting instructions, and then cars started obviously peeling away. But lap one, he gained, I think it was 5 positions. And then just from there on in, even when he got stuck behind Leclerc and Tsunoda and someone else, Russell, was it maybe at that point? I can't remember. No, it wasn't Russell. Sorry, Russell was in front.
It was Ocon.
Ocon. He got stuck there, but he maintained calmness about himself. Didn't go for anything stupid. He'd noted that sort of turn one dive bomb, kind of a dive bomb, quite late on the brakes. But he had spotted that already, and he'd almost perfected it immediately from that first move. And he just kept replicating that. I do wonder, some drivers, Piastri, how the doors were left quite wide open, considering your teammate is in a title fight with this man. But alas, he did not make that too difficult. But Oscar was lacking quite a bit of pace just in general today. But then, even after that, made the right call to stay out. We'll get onto that. And then at the end, of course, beats Ocon down towards turn one after the rolling start, and then just fastest lap. 17 of them. Not only did he start 17th and finish first, he delivered 17 fastest laps over the course of the race. Question from P1 Patreon member Captain Obs 3420. Is this drive from Max one of the greatest performances from a driver in F1 history? Well, this has only happened 5 times in the history of Formula One, a driver starting from 17th or lower winning the race. So statistically, yes, it is one of the greatest performances from a driver in F1 history. And people will say, and I've already seen what Lando said after the race, which I'm sure will be shared across the entire universe. Around sort of alluding to the fact that Max got lucky with the safety car. The safety car, and then the red flag coming out, and then the being able to change tyres. And look, it's slightly fortunate, of course, to get the red flag to come out. But I would also say that was a decision and a rolling of the dice that group of cars was able to do. You're in a bit more of a difficult, tricky water. I'm not trying to do a pun. if you're the front two, because you are leading the race, and if you stay out and then everybody else behind pits for wets and then you get caught, you look like the idiot there. So it's everything went right for Max. I would not call any of it lucky, apart from obviously being able to change tyres. But even then, there were so many factors that could have gone wrong. One snatch of the brake, anything like that. The absolute rainstorm that came down, you didn't see Max put out a foot once. There was no mistakes there. We saw mistakes throughout the field. We had crashes, but Max didn't, as far as I saw.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's absolutely one of the best drives we've ever seen in the history of Formula One. You can't dispute it. I know there's recency bias in Formula One, but I think there's also recency hate. Is that a word? I don't know. But like
recency hate.
Do you know what I mean? In terms of like people never respect something until it's kind of later down the line. You know, people getting nostalgic about moments from the past. I think when we're living in it, of course, as Formula One fans, we want variety. We want different winners. We don't like dominance. We don't like success, really, has to be said, it seems, in Formula One. So there will be people that will try and shut down this drive, but it's the same old boring sort of, oh, it's just lucky that we got when Hamilton was dominating, you know, Turkey 2020, these great drives that Hamilton did, Hockenheim 2018. You heard all the same things for that, and it's incredible how all these unbelievable drivers always get so lucky, isn't it? The guy started 17th and won by 20 seconds. You know, it's not even
40 safety cars, a red flag.
Exactly. You know, what more could he have done, really? Yes, he did get somewhat fortunate, but he with the red flag, but he put himself there by his unbelievable pace at the start. You thought
he's not the only one who got fortunate as well. Like,
exactly,
there were other drivers that also got fortunate with that red flag.
And if you look at the race as well, no DRS. It's so many people were stuck behind people the whole race and struggling to pass. Verstappen's move on Ocon completely caught him by surprise. I don't think he thought it was going to happen. He could have easily just stayed in second and gone, well, this is going to be great for my World Championship. Brilliant move on Ocon. His start was sensational. You know, the 17 fastest laps was him just showing off at the end, really. It will absolutely go down. And I don't think people will really appreciate it until, you know, maybe he's retired and we look back on his career. But it is going to be one of those, like your Turkey 2020, like Schumacher in Spain 96, that will get played again and again and again as like the greatest Formula One drives ever. Like, no doubt.
Wow. Tommy really went full fanboy there. It's crazy. But I do agree. I do agree.
Truth.
Yeah. Spitting facts. Next question. HB_Bang Tan for life. How did Max overtake 7 cars on the first lap? I think it was 5. I don't want to disrespect Max here, but of course,
5, yeah.
Stroll decided to just put himself in the gravel to end the race, his race before it even begun. And then Albon didn't start. So there were a couple there that
so it was a pathetic start, really.
So it was only 5, which is nothing really in treacherous conditions. But Max just knows where to place his car, and we saw the exact same thing that what was it
2016 around the outside,
where he went round the outside of Nico Rosberg. He did exactly the same thing to 2, and then shaped up the 3rd car by the time he went down towards turn 4. Like, that man, I know that we don't have like corners that are specifically great for drivers, but that corner, Max Verstappen in the wet, is like no other. The fact that he just, I think naturally he was sort of drifting that way anyway, just because of how the racing had unfolded. But I'm sure in his head he's going, I want to be on the outside round that corner as we head down the straight, and that's exactly where he placed his car, and he took huge advantage from that. And every moment, every lap. Although, to be fair, we had red flags and stuff. But at that point, he knows that every position is really crucial when it's wet weather and you don't have DRS. So, yeah, it was such an incredible first lap. When we first looked at it, I thought, that's Perez. No, it's not. It's not Perez.
Yeah, we said that on the watch along, didn't we? Because I was like, Max is up here. And you were kind of like, no, Perez started ahead. And then as we kind of zoomed into the cars, it was, oh, no, that is Max. He's already up in 10th position or something. And then what was crazy is while everyone else is seemingly struggling to overtake, he's passing everyone and he's made his way up to essentially the top. There was a Sonoda train, but he was kind of on the back of that so quickly, and it was insane to think the gap between him and Lando of where they started, that I think it was like 15, 16 laps into the race, which normally is where you can pull a huge advantage when someone started 17th, and the gap was only about 9 seconds between them. So Max he just put his car exactly where he needed to. And it was a masterclass in wet weather driving. It's what he does and what he's always done. He knows the lines, he knows where to place his car. And it was just amazing, yeah.
Yeah, at the end of lap 1, Verstappen was up to 11th. Then Perez spun the next lap, and that meant Verstappen was already into the points when he passed Hamilton for P10, which we thought may have been a bit more of a ding-dong battle than it turned out to be, but Hamilton had a pretty large stinker this weekend. But yeah, then lap 16, I think that's where you're mentioning he was caught in the train with Tsunoda, Ocon and Leclerc. And yeah, he's already in the fight. At that point, we were noting that sort of 9-10 second gap. And despite being stuck in that Tsunoda train, Norris and Russell out in front weren't pulling away. Verstappen had pace on hand, and it was very clear. As soon as he got into clear air, he made a huge statement to every single one of us that thought there might be a championship. So let's get into this next question. Here we go. Comes up every single time we have a red flag. Philip Valjak. Is the red flag change of tyres fair? Yes, because it's Formula One and not everything. Well, look, fair. Formula One is not fair, okay? Formula One, sometimes you don't get very lucky. But what I will say is that you should be able to change tyres in a red flag. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't agree that they can tick off in the dry conditions that they've done their tyre change, their mandatory tyre change. I think that's a bit rubbish. But in terms of changing tyres, especially in the wet, yes, it's the same as a safety car being flown or double waved yellow in qualifying. You can't get to do your lap, or the moments of misfortune happen. But yes,
exactly, yeah.
It is fair because it has to be in there. Drivers have to be able to change tyres under a red flag in case they've run over some debris. It's a safety feature of the rules.
Exactly. You win some, you lose some, like that famous quote from Max after Lando's win, and got asked the question about what did he say? If my aunt had balls, she'd be my uncle or something.
Yeah.
Which is funny that Max was crediting Lando there, but Lando's kind of come out with a slightly suspect quote that's sort of crediting Max a little bit for being fortunate. But I think at the end of the day, you win some, you lose some. Max Verstappen himself got absolutely screwed over by a red flag moments earlier in the day in qualifying. Just to cover that one off, because I know we said about qualifying, he was out already. I don't think that the qualifying, the red flag was only screwed in because he didn't get to do his lap. I don't think there was anything sus about it. Like if they'd have flown the flag straight away, he still would have been out because everyone
they would have
was
had to
crossing
fly the flag within 2 seconds of Lance Stroll hitting the wall, which is just not possible.
Yeah, we all knew Lance was going to go off, but not.
Yeah, have the red flags ready at all times. Lance is on track. Yeah,
but yeah, this is Formula One. You win some, you lose some, and drivers get fortunate with safety cars, and what goes around comes around. Like sometimes you get lucky with it, sometimes you don't. And over the balance of Formula One, there'll be drivers where we might have another red flag. Max gets absolutely screwed. Lando benefits massively. It's just part of Formula One, and we get this question every single time because drivers benefit, but drivers benefit from safety cars. They benefit from conditions where they've made a gamble on tyres. That's part of Formula One, is a bit of unpredictability, and you take gambles, and that's the beauty of the sport.
Certainly is. So let's go to a question that maybe finally puts a full stop in the amount of questions we've had of championship back on and championship back off. P1 Patreon member Lumixion, championship over? Yes, the championship is over. I'm sorry, everybody. It is done. It was, and I think we said this on the run up to this weekend, that there cannot be a swing of points in Max's favour, whether it's 2, whether it's 10, whether it's 20. And this was it. There's only 80 odd points left in the championship, and Max is 62 clear, I believe. So
Yeah.
it is over, sadly, unless Max wheels out a car that breaks down every single session from here on in. I still think maybe he would win the championship. You don't know, because Lando's not been able to deliver to the level of which that car has been for most of the season. He's scored some wins, he's had some great performances, but it's not been consistent. And that was, sadly, he had some mistakes today, which cost him. I think he said fourth was probably the best he could have achieved without the luck. And he didn't manage to even execute on that fourth place. So it is championship over, but we still have 3 incredible races, I'm sure, that are coming up in this amazing 2024 season. And the Constructors' Championship is incredibly close as well, not just for first place, but that scrappy battle for P6 as well is now on. So plenty of things to still keep an eye out for.
Oh, yeah, the championship was always... It was close and it was nerve-wracking. But no, I mean, I was very nervous. Like I say, I can't believe how much that championship swung in just a single, not even single weekend, a single day, with qualifying happening in the morning, looking like Lando was even going to go out in Q1, and we were saying championship over. Then Max is the one that gets screwed over by the red flag, goes out. It's going to be a huge point swing in Lando's favour. He could put potentially 25 points on Max, or a few less than that, and instead it flips completely the other way. And it's an absolutely huge ask, but this, if you stop watching, you're watching the wrong sport, because there's so much to look forward to for the rest of the season. We're having so many different winners now. I mean, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I saw a stat that Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton are like the last 2 people to get kind of like back-to-back wins, which is crazy, because we're having so many different winners this year, and that just shows it's changing every single race. We had Ferrari win last time, McLaren have won, Mercedes have won. There's so much to look forward to, and then you've got the Constructors' Championship as well, and not forgetting the fight for 6th in the Constructors, which is hotted up nicely.
I thought you were also going to say for the fight for P2 in the Drivers' Championship, because Leclerc closes in on Lando Norris. It's 24 points between the two of them, so 1 race win.
And I know when you said I thought you were going to say about Bottas and Logan Sargent then. But
that as well, sadly.
Loads to look forward to.
Have we actually had any confirmation on this supposed potential penalty for all of the front lot?
No, I can't see anything yet. So
okay. I'm sure we'll probably get a live reaction.
During the podcast
whilst we're doing this.
Their time.
They are taking their sweet time. It's not like they had any red flags or safety cars to really work on what happened at the start. Let's go to my most memorable moment. And it has to be Alpine finishing 2nd and 3rd. What the flying beep? Like, how have they come into this Grand Prix weekend with 5 points and left with what?
Wait, Ocon had 5 points.
No, sorry, Ocon had 5 points. Alpine themselves, I think, had like 14 or something in total.
Yeah, not many.
But now they've gone from 9th to 6th in the championship. It's utterly ridiculous, to be honest with you. P1 Patreon member MZT says, how good will the Alpine team party be tonight? I think pretty damn good, to be honest with you. It's such an unexpected result. But they were quick. It's not like they lucked into it. It's not like they, with 2 laps to go, managed to somehow find themselves at the front. I mean, Ocon was leading. Ocon drove away from Max Verstappen in that middle part of the race, and you're wondering if Ocon's gonna win. And I think just as we had that that next phase to the race where we had the restart, I think that Max was starting to close once again before we obviously had that pause, and then Max got through on the restart. But they finished second and third. They had George Russell and Lando Norris behind, but they couldn't make any inroads to Alpine in wet weather conditions, which is just ridiculous.
It's absolutely insane, because when you saw what Ocon had done in qualifying, you thought, oh, maybe he'll get a top 5, and that would be a fantastic result for Alpine. But Gasly started 13th, and somehow has ended up on the podium with him. Unbelievable from Alpine. Their best result all year has been a 9th place. And we've not seen, other than the top 4 cars that have all won races, we've not seen anyone else on the podium. So for Alpine to get 2 cars up there, like, what a dream scenario. And painful for the likes of Haas and Williams, that were looking very quick, and both have gone home with written off cars, and Alpine taking a massive chunk out of their lead.
Yeah, it just shows in these conditions, it's slippery, it's the great leveler, having these sort of wet weather races. And Gasly and Ocon, they've gone very much sort of by the wayside. They've been very quiet this year because they've literally been driving a tractor. But you have these, one of these crazy races that allow for a team like Alpine that have been struggling to get in the mix, and for them to deliver this just shows that they've got 2 very talented drivers, but they just have not been able to. I mean, it's been chaos, hasn't it? Alpine, with their throwing away of their engine program and all this sort of stuff. I mean, what a settler that must be for Alpine to actually have some good news to come out of this Grand Prix weekend. And I'm sure they'll go back to Las Vegas and they will finish 14th and 15th, and all will be forgotten from Brazil. But it's just the way this season has gone for them.
It's funny you say that, because I was just looking at the results, and isn't it hilarious that every time in driver ratings and a lot of the kind of season, we mention how there's nothing really to separate Ocon and Gasly, and it's hilarious that they get 9th and 10th in races, and sometimes they're 15th and 16th. So when one of them gets a podium, it's like, I'll be on the podium as well. No, we will be together all the time.
I bet Gasly couldn't believe as well. Like, he'd been performing incredibly well over the last few race weekends, and then he's driving in third, thinking, "Oh, this is great! Wait, Ocon's winning. Ocon's in the lead. No, this can't happen." So I'm sure he was a little bit relieved from a competitive standpoint to see Ocon lose the win to Verstappen, but still, what a performance. Next question from Luke First X. Does that absolute masterclass performance today from Max just highlight again how much Lando simply isn't ready to be world champion yet? It's a tough question, but it's one that we have to talk about, because this was the moment where the championship was lost in my eyes, obviously, because there's not many. It needs a miracle from here on in to have any sort of chance to overthrow Max now from the title. The quali was touch and go. Nearly got knocked out in Q1. Managed to end up on pole position. There was things that obviously happened in there that people were slightly questioning. I don't think there was anything wrong with as we've mentioned, the whole Max red flag thing. I think there is a whole topic that we need to go into, Tommy, perhaps this week, where we have a specific podcast talking about this whole red flag timing and safety and what they should do moving forward. But from a Lando performance perspective, there were too many mistakes. He had to be perfect, and it was right from the get-go. He lost the lead going to turn 1, and then he was stuck behind George Russell. Now, that didn't really affect... Well, it might have done, actually, because...
He might have checked out.
Who knows what he would have done had he been out in front. Perhaps he would have checked out. Perhaps he then wouldn't have been undercut, or not undercut, but I guess the drivers that stayed out, perhaps Lando could have stretched his legs and had that buffer. We don't know. But what we do know, and the facts are, he lost the lead, was stuck behind George Russell. It was clearly had more pace than the Merc in that first phase of the Grand Prix. And then even after that, snatching his brakes, nearly crashing into the back of someone going into turn one. It's not. And I think Lando will learn a lot from this year and this season. It's his first time challenging for a championship. But I don't think even he would hold it against people for saying that he is not as good as Max Verstappen and he's not ready to beat him in a... Well, I wouldn't even say it's been an equal title fight. They've had the edge, McLaren. Yeah. They've had the faster car, but it's not been fast enough compared to a Max Red Bull package where Max is efficient almost every single weekend, barring Mexico, where he slightly went a little bit off the rails. But apart from that, Max is 97% of the time getting everything out of that car.
Yeah, unfortunately for Lando, this is a race that will be a tough pill to swallow because he had everything. He couldn't have set it up more beautifully for him to challenge for that title. And there'd been a lot of talk about, he bottled it on Saturday and should have been on pole and all this stuff. And there's other criticisms which I think sometimes are sometimes very unfair, but you're in the spotlight so much more when you're in challenging for a world title. You have to expect people to be talking about this all the time, constantly asking you questions about Max Verstappen, criticizing every single little thing you do. Even when he won in Singapore, people saying, oh, he's made a mistake and things like that. That is just the scrutiny you're under when you're going for a world championship. And I think unfairly a lot this year, he's been sort of criticized when he has put up a fight. But unfortunately, that fight has shown that he's not quite there yet. And I think, there's a comment that people always bring up where I think Lando said something about Hamilton and how easy it was to just win a title if you've got a really good car. That's come back to bite him quite hard because he's now shown, and other drivers have shown it, and, it's not as easy as you think to win a world title. You have to be perfect. And you can't afford to have these little mistakes. And unfortunately for Lando, there were a lot of them, particularly in that race, which I think is going to make it sting even more. You mentioned about him losing the lead, which is something that's happened so many times this year, where his starts have been probably his biggest weakness, I think, this year. Something that it's really struggled with. But then the start procedure, is it unlucky? Then Max Verstappen's, saying that he knew the rules and was saying that, he straight away was on the radio saying, you're not meant to go. He went off. Before he went off behind Max, he went off again, didn't he? And lost the position to Russell. It actually got ahead of Russell when he'd put the new tyres on. Gone off again, lost the place, which meant he was caught behind Russell for the rest of the race. And then unfortunately, it kind of summed it up, that moment, 40 laps in or whatever it was, where you've got Max making a move down the inside to go for the win and taking the victory, essentially, where Lando's made a little mistake, gone off. They have to let Piastri let him through again. It was just a disaster for him. And what I would say is I think he'll learn from it. And I do think that while this year we've learnt that he's not World Drivers' Championship material, or at least not World Drivers' Championship material against a Max Verstappen. I think that's the key point here. He can be, because he's incredibly fast. He's got amazing pace. He's beaten Piastri this year. He's going to beat Piastri this year. There are bits that you can improve in your game. We've seen that with many drivers. Look at Nico Rosberg, that people didn't give him a prayer against Hamilton, and then he kind of put everything into 1 year. And I think that's what Lando needs to do himself. He needs to just go away, maybe change his approach a little bit to how he sort of approaches himself with a championship fight, and he'll learn from it. And I don't think this will be the last time that Lando is fighting for a championship, and I think he could still very much win a championship. He's got the speed to do it. It's just very difficult to do against, especially when you're racing Max Verstappen.
I completely agree. He's got the foundations to be a world champion. He's fast, and that's not something that you can really teach. The mental side, I think, is something I'd love to see him improve in the seasons to come. I think that will come with experience, because what I've felt when I've seen him be interviewed, especially after tough moments, is like a sprinkling of irritation from Lando. We know that he's very tough on himself, but you almost feel that sort of irritation when he gets asked the same question. And fair enough, like, he's within his own right to say how he feels. But it does feel like that whole sort of the show is getting to him a little bit, and especially when you need to be so laser focused on the task at hand, it can have, even a subconscious effect rather than something he's actively worrying about when he's in the car, because I'm sure he's not. But it's just these things, right? To be a world champion is more than just being fast, and we've seen that this year. And Max, I mean, it was quite a big sort of moment that you look at, and that image, I think, of Max going down the inside of Ocon at the same time Lando's making a mistake, and you almost see the portrayal of the championship in one sort of picture. So I think obviously social media is very quick to jump on drivers not being world champion material or being champion material. Lando, there is room to grow. There's room to improve. I don't think this is Lando's end product, but I do hope
his first time ever going for the world title. Let's not forget
exactly.
that many drivers that have gone on to win titles have had difficult moments. And
you think about Hamilton, like he binned it in blooming China and in the pit entry. Did Vettel sit there and go, he's never going to win a world championship? He's bottled it. Yeah, he's absolutely what a finished driver.
Exactly. Vettel in 2009 had so many opportunities. He had a great car and he was crashing into people when he was overtaking and had difficult races and stuff. So you can turn it around, is what I'd say, and he needs to. And
for sure,
I think he can.
Absolutely. People, drivers, us as humans can all improve.
It's all about growth, isn't it?
Exactly. So it's beautiful. What a way to end that question. Next one, Lolly K Pop Zero. Does this mean the end of McLaren team orders? Yes. Well, no. No, not in the sense of McLaren will still probably have to do team orders in order to maximise the constructors' points tally for them. But yes, in terms of favouring Lando, unless Oscar's on old tyres, Lando's on new, swap the positions. But when we're talking about Lando Norris getting extra points in the Drivers' Championship, it's kaput now. Like, come on, let's put it to rest. Unless Verstappen in Vegas is 15th.
It's a 1-2.
I guess that's
it's
a conversation.
It's a 1-2 for McLaren. That's the only way I could see it, where they kind of go, okay, so then it would be a 25-point swing and it keeps us in it. I think that's the only way, because otherwise they're probably going, no, this is not really on now, is it?
But it's a very rare thing, I think, that would happen, especially when we've just seen Max Verstappen go from 17th and win the race. It doesn't usually happen the other way around with Max. So I think it's the end of McLaren team orders in favouring Lando, personally, for most, 99% of situations.
I'm sure Oscar Piastri is gutted about it.
He's like, oh no, anyway, oh no, Max. Oh no, you've dived down my inside. Oh no, good luck. Next question, Vortex2210. What might have been if George and Lando didn't pit? Just wondering. Look, we kind of touched upon it, didn't we? That they are the leaders. They are the ones that have to make a decision. And you, obviously, with the benefit of hindsight, you go, why didn't they stay out? And George himself, he was fuming on the radio and said, we should have stayed out. So it's a weird situation, isn't it? Because it almost is a game of chicken, where all of the drivers are out there. You either box and try and stay out there and think that the race is going to carry on, or everybody stays out there and waits for someone to crash, and then there's a red flag and nobody loses a position, which is obviously doesn't feel great and doesn't feel like that should be the way. But I mean, the drivers are out there on intermediates as well, let's not forget. These are not the full wets are being used in monsoon conditions, almost. And they're still favouring the green wall tyre. It's Formula One and Pirelli need to make a bloody tyre that works in the wet, and it's the blue one, right?
Yeah,
so we have steps, but we don't have that. We have dry and intermediate, and geez, if it is 5 inches of standing water, we might stick on the wets.
Yeah, it's a tough call for the leaders, because, of course, they were wearing their tyres down, and you're going to as the rain came down, the funny thing about the whole situation, and this again comes down to the good fortune and just the roll of the dice that is Formula One, and that's why Formula One is so exciting when we have these moments, because you don't know what's going to happen. That when they pitted, you kind of thought, oh, the others are staying out, so they're going to gamble. This is good for Lando. Then it rained a lot. Then you thought the people on the wet tyres were actually going to be, and Yuki Tsunoda might win the race. Joking,
We did.
but
We thought
like
Tsunoda
obviously,
was going
going to have an amazing run here. But then even when they decided to throw a safety car instead of the red flag, which was very surprising based on how the conditions were, because it looked... How many times have we seen that footage and we know a red flag is coming immediately? Which again, we've said that we'll probably have a discussion about this later about is it suspect or whatever, because they seem to be very reluctant to throw the red flag. If they'd have been able to just keep running behind the safety car, if Colapinto hadn't crashed and they were just running behind the safety car, you've got a wet track where Max and everyone's inters are probably a bit screwed because they're turning into like slick immediates or whatever you call them. And it's advantaged them anyway. So it's just fine margins, and this is just how Formula One works. Like it could have so easily been such a great decision for them.
But it wasn't.
Because
it wasn't the right way to go. It was baffling, wasn't it? That whole moment in the race where it's a little bit baffling, right? How the FIA seem very hesitant to start a session when it's a bit wet out there, but they were dangerous conditions when
the drivers were screaming for
George
red flags.
And
right?
Lando, they were going about 50 miles an hour down the straight out of the center S's. You could see both of them; they were crawling, and there was streams of water coming, and we just sat there going, "What are we waiting for here? Like that has to be a safety car." But they were very hesitant with that until eventually they put out the safety car, didn't they? And Colapinto managed to crash anyway behind it, which just showed just how treacherous the conditions were. But I feel as though on one side I'm like, okay, let's chill out a little bit here and bring out the safety car. On other points we're going, come on, let's get the session up and running now. It does feel like their assessment of when to go and when not to go just felt a bit off.
And the drivers know best. George Russell.
Well, you can only trust the drivers to some degree.
You say that, but if George Russell is shouting red flag, I guess it was he shouting red flag when he was already ahead? I'm not sure, but a lot of the drivers were pleading for a red flag. It looked like a red flag conditions based on the amount of water coming down. We thought that was going to be the case, and it was only a matter of time before someone going off was the least surprising thing in the world, really, in those conditions. So it seemed like they were reluctant, and this comes down to how it has been this weekend, of like wanting to mix up too much of the championship fight and things, because it's a tough call because there's so much on the line. Because, very surprising that they threw a safety car and not the red flag straight away, but there we go.
I just felt like it needed a VSC earlier. Then you make a decision, then you fly the red flag. Which who knows if they were actually going to fly one, or they were genuinely waiting for someone to crash and then they chucked it out. It was quite a hot water situation right there. Next question, Ellen Louise _87. What is your guys' take on that false start? How do you think not one but multiple drivers made that error? How I see it right now is very simple. Lando Norris made the error. Everybody else followed. It's like when you go to cross the road. Someone walks out first. You go, we're good to go. So we all walk out. That's basically what I think happened, where Lando rolls away and they go, oh, well, if Lando's gone, then yeah, I'll go as well. And then they all went. And we're still waiting right now as to what's actually going to happen with these drivers and whether Zhou Guanyu is actually the winner of the Brazilian Grand Prix. But
they've only just been called, by the way. Lando's only just been called, and we are filming 2 hours after the race, and he's only just been basically...
I mean, there were a lot of incidents in that
race. There were a lot of
incidents,
but he's been called to the stewards now, so it's still going to be a long time. He actually got a 10-second gap on Tsunoda, didn't he?
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be fine, you'd assume. Famous last words.
Unless they gave a stop and go equivalent time penalty, which is
True.
30 seconds or whatever it might be. So, we'll wait to see on that one, but not like it really matters now.
No, I do agree with you though. The fact that it is a case of once one goes, the other goes. We've seen that a few times in Formula One with start procedures when lights have failed and everyone copies each other and just goes. Of course, yes, he should have known the rules. It seems like other drivers did. But yeah, I think the fact that I'm surprised actually that McLaren, maybe it was such a quick process, but I'm surprised that the team didn't know and weren't shouting on the radio, no, stop, don't go, whatever you do, don't go.
Very bizarre.
Because there wasn't a green light. And normally with these start procedure things, they are very extreme with the kind of punishments and penalties, because of course the reason it's aborted and people should stay on the grid is because there were people still on the track sort of sorting out Lance Stroll's car. So they didn't take it lightly, but like you say, maybe with how the title's going, it could be insult to injury for Lando, but it feels like the damage has been done for this race, doesn't it?
It really has. If he had won this race and, perhaps Max or some drivers could take advantage of it, then we'd be sort of on the edge of our seats waiting for this to come out. But
yeah, where it kind of swung immediately, where kind of like, right, this is Lando's best chance to take a massive chunk out of Verstappen's lead. Oh no, he's done something at the start immediately.
That's just ridiculous. Yeah, my brain could not keep up with most of the turning points of this. Next question comes in from P1 Patreon member Sam Dougie Douglas. Could the race not have started at the usual time? The weather seemed to be much better and would have given people more time to fix the cars from quali. I'm not going to have a go at the FIA and Formula One and everyone for coming to an agreement with the weather, because look, the weather can bubble up and change 1,000 times in Brazil. They did what they could with the information they were given at the time, which was run it earlier. Drivers had to set everyone, mechanics, everybody had to set ridiculously early alarms. We had qualifying at 7:30 in the morning local time, which is the earliest a session has ever happened in Formula One history.
Wow.
So I'm not going to, because it's the benefit of hindsight. Oh, the weather was a bit better at the end. You don't know. So I applaud F1 and the FIA for actually trying to make this happen, because I believe we were having this exact criticism after Spa 2021, where it didn't go ahead. We knew it was going to absolutely bucket it down with rain. F1 and the FIA probably went, yeah, but we don't want to change the start time because we've told everyone the start time throughout the entirety of the weekend. We don't want to change it. But they did. So fair play. I'm not going to criticise them at all.
No, me neither. Absolutely fair play to Formula One and everyone that's put it on earlier, because you also think how late and how long the race was going on with so many stoppages and crazy moments, that even if we had started later and it went on longer, you're going to be losing light as well, because the race was like 3 hours, I think, into not the actual length of the race, but how long it went from the start lights going out to the checkered flag. So yeah, have to give them respect for doing it, because normally they have been very much like, no, the start time is gospel and you cannot change it. So the fact that we actually, based on all that weather and how grim it was looking yesterday, got a qualifying session and a race in. And just to cover one more point, I think Ted Kravitz, because a lot of people are going, oh, the poor fans that were there on Saturday. I think Ted Kravitz covered that they were only selling 3-day tickets anyway. So it seems like people were there for the whole weekend. So it seems like 99% of people wouldn't have missed out, which is obviously a good thing. So, and what a race they got to see.
Absolutely. Okay, next question. Paulo Zoom. What's more useless, the wet tyre or Lance Stroll? Lance Stroll, categorically. That was...
God.
What? Why? Okay, look, you can snatch your brakes. We've seen it throughout the weekend. spears into the wall. We've literally seen this, and it's been a problem for drivers. So that's one thing happening on the formation lap for that to happen. The problem for me is the fact that Lance Stroll took a lot of time to sort of understand his surroundings. Okay, I'm down this runoff. To the left of me is a gravel trap. I'm going to have to turn left and try and avoid. No, I'm not going to avoid it. I'm going to drive straight through it. Actually, no, screw that. I'm going. Oh God, it's really deep. Oh no, this is so deep. Oh, I should have listened to my engineer about how deep that gravel trap is when we were doing the track walk. I'm stuck. That was sort of the turn of events for Lance Stroll, and you can't get any more embarrassing than that. It really cannot. And Tommy, the question I want to ask you off the top of that is his seat under threat?
I think it might be. No, I mean, oh my God, absolute. Of all the drivers for it to be as well, of course, it was Lance Stroll. I think you said during our watch line, didn't you? If you'd done a track walk, you would have seen that, or like, surely that's the point of a track walk and all that kind of stuff. And this is a driver. He has done 166 races. Like
he is the most experienced Canadian Formula One driver ever.
He's done so many races now, and I don't think a driver with this many races makes so many rookie errors. If that was Colapinto or Ollie Behrman or something, then maybe you'd give him a bit of the benefit of the doubt. It's still a big error because I think every Formula One fan knows that cars get beached in gravel traps. That's basic wheel knowledge. But instead, Lance Stroll, the fact that he had so much time, like you say, to basically discover it, to basically go, right, how do I maneuver this? How does this work?
Not put my car in a vulnerable position by putting it in a gravel trap.
Exactly.
No, I did. I will say, this is not devil's advocate. This is just to say that was a different kind of gravel trap to what we usually see, which are sort of like bigger pebbles, and the cars can usually roll over it. But this one was basically, it looked like almost quicksand, the way that it was very deep, and it was a different kind of gravel trap. But that is information that should be in the driver's head. Like that's your job, Lance Stroll, to know that gravel trap is not possible to be driven through. But he did. It was all on the formation. He basically was like, I see what you're doing here, Interlagos. This is a stressful race. I'm out. Formation lap done. Charles Leclerc, look, he did it last year. Beautiful. Straight in the garage. Let's chill out.
Yeah, exactly. The only thing Lance Stroll's ever done to replicate Charles Leclerc's driving, and it's the bad part. Well, it wasn't Charles' fault.
I mean, Lance didn't have a failure. Charles did. So
yeah,
anyway,
he had a failure of talent.
Don't want to reflect on last year at all anymore for Leclerc's formation lap. Let's go to biggest winner, driver or team. Max Verstappen. God, I mean, for God's sake, that man. It's not really fair, actually. I've decided, Tommy, for you to support him. It's like it's a cheat code. Like, I support Max.
Ages.
Well done. Yeah, but he always seems to win championships. Okay, that's what he's doing at the moment, and he's just far too OP. Like, he really is. Like, just relax. You didn't have to put 17 fastest laps in. Just make it like 15 or 12 or not. No.
It's an outrageous. It is just showing off. It was a proper like F1 game on the easiest setting, driving past everyone and then winning the race by miles, and it being not even a challenge really. Also, Alpine, of course, have got to be a shout for biggest winner. Just the fact that they've rocketed up the standings. Yeah,
like
Alpine just.
I'm just so happy for them. Much. Esty Bestie on the podium, baby.
Yeah, Alpine, amazing performance from them. It's got to be a big shout. I think if you'd have said
the biggest winner,
is it an insane thing to say that even though Verstappen started 17th, it's more surprising that Alpine was second and third?
Yeah, I mean, it is. It's not insane.
Yeah,
because you all knew.
I think it's got to be.
We all knew
Alpine.
there was a potential Verstappen could pull off a worldie. You didn't think Alpine would finish second and third in this season of the top four teams being clear of everyone else.
I think it's actually Alpine because Verstappen's obviously extended his lead massively in the World Championship, but kind of stayed whereas Alpine have absolutely catapulted from pretty much bottom all the way
Cash
up
money.
a few places. And
that is what they've made, is serious cash money.
Yeah.
Okay, well done to Alpine for biggest winner. Biggest loser. There are a lot of contenders. There are a lot of contenders from this this weekend. Stroll is impressive. I didn't think we could get that bad, but we did. But then did he have much to lose? Not really. Definitely not his seat.
Williams
Albon,
I think Williams in general. They've had three. They've had 3 crashes in one single day, written off a car completely that didn't even do the race, and the fact that Alpine have leapfrogged them in the championship.
Yeah.
I think it's a disaster for Williams.
It cemented them 9th in the championship rather than fighting Alpine all the way down to the last race of the season.
I think it's got to be Williams.
Yeah.
Even though, like you say, there's a lot of people there that had a stinker. Sainz was like, wow. Based on the last race
horrendous.
Ever seen.
He crashed in qualifying.
Yeah.
Crashed in the race.
Wasn't making any progress. Ollie Behrman had a shocker. Haas had a shocker. Hulkenberg got disqualified.
Behrman finished 12th, though. I mean, that's a good
result. Exactly. Still beat the stake.
Yeah.
It's got to be Williams.
All of that chaos and Zhou you still finished last. That's ridiculous. Okay, good. All right. So we're going for biggest loser, Williams. Although there's plenty. I mean, it might be Mercedes when they both get disqualified for that tyre pressure thing, which I've not seen if they're getting disqualified or penalised for that. Let's reflect now on our predictions if we have to, because I don't really want to talk about mine. And it says here in the sheet, Tommy, that it's 49-49 to you. How is that possible?
Because I changed what it was last time and didn't add the rest in. So
well 49 done, Tommy. Was it because you've had more P1s? Like, what are we saying here? I don't
Maybe,
know.
yeah.
So it's 49 all.
It is indeed. Yeah.
Okay. It's the biggest good surprise. I went for Charles Leclerc, and look how devastating of a blow Charles Leclerc gave to his teammate Carlos Sainz. That's
the P1 podcast when your parents walk in the room.
But yeah, he did destroy Carlos Sainz. So realistically, that's the biggest good surprise. I know it's not. Whatever.
No, it's not.
Don't care.
Difficult weekend. Mine did much better. Chefed by his teammate and disqualified from the whole race because the biggest
good surprise is.
I think my biggest good surprise is a challenge to your biggest flop curse, but the wrong way.
But you're scoring no points for it, and I'm scoring points.
So yeah, 2 terrible ones. Mine a lot worse.
0 and 0. Biggest flop. I went for Kevin Magnussen, which, according to Twitch chat, I don't deserve the point for. Which I know, I get. He was unwell. But it's still a flop. He didn't compete in the Grand Prix. And then some people were like, yeah, well, it carries over to Ollie Behrman. All right, then. Ollie Behrman's crashed, got penalties, didn't score a point. I'm taking it. I was going to say it was going to be half a point. That's what I came to an agreement with Twitch chat, was that they'd give me half a point for the K-Mag. But now that Ollie Behrman was also shocking in Kevin Magnussen's car, I think that I can't believe I'm even having to defend myself right now.
You know what? I'd love to argue against you, but It's literally who's going to have a bad weekend, and the guy didn't even make it to the track.
I'm not saying he drove badly.
No, it's not about.
If
it's not a bad
engine
weekend.
Blows up, that's a flop. Not
if you said Logan Sargent was going to have a bad race in Australia when they swapped the cars and he didn't get to compete, it's still a flop.
Yeah,
because it's basically it's like you've had a bad. Biggest good surprise is you've had a good race. It's basically just biggest flop. You've had a bad race, a very bad race, and.
You can't have a worse race than losing the seat for a.
I can't believe I'm arguing for you.
Thanks,
but
Tom.
yeah,
I appreciate that.
I can't
Give me
believe
that juicy
people
point.
There. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So mine is TBC because I went for Mercedes. And as normally when I go for a team, one of them's the absolute goat and one of them's useless. And that's basically what happened
Tommy
this
calling
weekend.
Hamilton useless. That's crazy live on the podcast.
He had a terrible race, has to be said.
He
did. Well, basically that's TBC, but is that the double pointer if they both get disqualified? Surely.
What?
2 points for a team.
Relax. Let's see how let's see how the scores are looking.
Yeah, we have to wait to see the disqualification.
Well, don't worry, Tommy. I'm not scoring.
Spoken like a true FIA steward. Let's wait to see the points and then decide the penalty.
Let's try and make it close no matter what. Okay, so TBC right now. But if they both get disqualified, then perhaps you are on for a double pointer. Okay, sprint pole. I went for Charles Leclerc.
Meh.
You're supposed to also say you went for Charles Leclerc.
I went for Charles Leclerc.
That's what happens in a podcast. We discuss and talk and conversationalize.
I thought you were going to say no.
No, but because you said the same thing, I thought you were also going to. Anyway, sprint winner, I went for Charles Leclerc.
I went for Charles Leclerc.
Nice. Well played. 0 points. Pole position, I went for Lewis Hamilton.
Close. He set the fastest time in a 1990 McLaren around Interlagos.
So you're telling me there's half a point there? In the Heritage Formula 1 series. Yeah, I didn't get that right, sadly.
No, and pole position, I went for Lando Norris, which did happen.
Disgraceful. How have you scored a point there? You should have been out in Q1. That is wild. But perhaps he would have done better. Maybe being out at the back was the way to be in that race.
No pressure.
Top 3. I have a feeling we're not going to score many points here. Lando Norris, P3. No.
Carlos Sainz, P3. No.
Charles Leclerc, P2. No.
Charles Leclerc, P2. No.
Lewis Hamilton first.
And
first one down the Kimi Raikkonen escape route that he set several times.
And I went for Lando Norris, P1. No. He won the sprint, half a point. No.
He did. No.
Is that that's got to be one of the only times we've not got a single podium driver, surely, because normally one of us gets at least one.
I don't know. I think you underestimate how we can be sometimes. I just swore. That's crazy. I just swore on the podcast. That's wild. Let's write that down. 1 hour 2. Good. Forgot I wasn't on Twitch for a second there.
Dear.
But yes.
But, I mean, to be fair, if any of us had have gone Verstappen, Ocon, Gasly, I think you'd have just had the prediction championship there.
Yeah,
you just win. Instant trophy.
Just give it all to me right now, Tommy. Okay, so then one crazy prediction. Look, I was really chefing this week. Top 4 in quali under a 10th. Let me see what the quali results were.
I don't think it was anywhere near, wasn't Lando?
No, I'm not saying it was going to be close. I was more saying that it was absolutely nowhere near. Oh, Jesus Christ. It was 1.1 seconds separating the top 4. Solid.
Okay, interesting.
Solid.
So if you added a second on, you still wouldn't have got it right.
Yeah, literally.
That's how far off it was.
Actually, no, if it was a second, I would have got it. If you take off a second, that's half a point.
And speaking of couldn't get any less correct, I went for Lando gains more than 10 points on Max Verstappen.
And you literally said, and I think you were trying to jinx it at the start of the watch-along, I've absolutely chefed this. My crazy prediction is locked in.
Well, it was
Lando's
looking very, very good before.
And then Max won by 20 seconds.
And then Max Verstappen.
Okay, 3 crazy predictions. CFC_Craig, Charles to overtake Lando in the Drivers' Championship. Not this race, but it's coming, don't worry. F1 Chronicle, Lawson finishes higher than Verstappen. No. And Scuderia, Bottas moves up to 22nd in the standings. Oh, it was so close.
There's still a chance. There is still a chance.
Where did he finish? 13th?
He finished 13th, so all he needs is both Mercs. He doesn't even need Lando, because 11th is enough for him.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is 11th for P22?
11th will...
because Zhou's 21st.
And he's got more 12ths than Logan.
Wow, so, I love how deep you've gone into this title battle.
It's 1 hour into a podcast. It's like post-Watershed.
Oh, my
just goes
goodness.
Off the rails when you hit that
This is usually on our
mark.
Patreon. This is crazy. But that is how deep you've gone into the whole stats of this P22 battle in the
exactly. This Verstappen thing's all a facade. I'm still Logan Sargent fanboy, really, and I still study his championship battle results every night. Yeah.
Wow, every night, crazy. Okay, well that's it. We're done. We're finished. We've probably got another 100 incidents to talk about in driver ratings, but you can look forward to that in a couple of days' time. Tommy, what are your final thoughts, please? And keep them PG. Thank you.
I Oh my God! Final thoughts are.
Oh wow! This is the worst final thought.
No,
I've
it's
ever
the worst.
seen.
I've actually just seen that cheekily Red Bull have retweeted the graphic of when they did the Lando Norris statement one, and they do one for every driver now with a bit of a weird kind of So Formula One basically did one of Max with Masterclass, and Red Bull quote tweeted it and put statement full stop.
Which is exactly what Lando said, right?
And actually, Max sort of did his Simply Lovely thing as well, didn't he? As a
he was absolutely desperate to say that.
He was. He's been waiting for that.
It was brilliant the way he said it.
Yeah,
as well.
It was good. So yes, we wait for the news of Mercedes and Lando, and can't wait for the driver ratings, because
that's a pretty simple race to grade, I would say.
Exactly. Nothing really happened. It's a sprint, which is normally easier because you've got 2 races to cover. Lots of controversy, penalties, different weather conditions. Yeah. I'm sure all our results will be 100% factually correct.
Absolutely. Everybody stay tuned for what the grade will be for Zhou Guanyu. You will all be there waiting for when it comes out.
Well, it could all change, because if he's getting he could P13's on the cards.
That's a solid 3 out of 10 if I've ever seen it. So the craziest race ever, and he still brings up the rear. It's wild, isn't it? Okay, that's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. We will be back in a while for our next race review, because we've got a few weeks before Vegas. But we'll have lots of podcasts, lots of discussion topics between now and then. And make sure as well, P1 Live Show UK tour tickets if you want to come see me, Tommy, in person. We'd love to see you there. And that's it. We're done. Goodbye, Tommy. Sweet dreams, everybody. And I think this is the sweetest of dreams. You need this after this race.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sleep for 1,000 years.
Same.
So keep pushing in the gym, though, if you are. And just heard the microwave go. Get your pot noodle out, because you need some sustenance after that hard work in the gym. And sorry, no, that tea towel's not. It's a little bit creased. Could you just fold that for me? Thank you. I'm trying to think of anything that's.
You've left your telly on as well.
You've left your telly on.
Yeah,
well, don't turn it off if it's the P1 podcast that's currently playing.
No.
And then also, oh my God, Tommy's at the door.
Ding dong.
Let him in. Ding dong. Can you get your dog to stop barking, please? Thank you. Not Frank.
I was going to say, the rare time Frank's not actually barking.
I know. Well, what a race. Thank you, everybody.
What a race.
Sweet dreams.
Goodbye.
Enjoy your drive.